Record.
Hello and welcome to this Friday's weekly DXproduct strategy call. Today on the agenda we got Zed presenting Swapr review. We'll have a discussion afterwards. Then we will have a chat about Swapr's multi-chain liquidity mining strategy. And then we will discuss the final preparations needed for ETH Denver and the Bidlathon, and also see if there's still a chance for GXDAO to conduct any workshop or join a panel at ETH Denver as it's outlined in our sponsorship package. Zed, you have the stage.
Awesome. Let me share my screen here and get this going. I'll be sharing my Figma screen here. The slides are made in Figma because Keenan actually Keenan started something he shouldn't have started. You can't make this a presentation competition, Keenan, when you have designers. Like, designers can't just do boring slides. So yeah, I spent too much time in Figma doing slides. But yeah, let's go through this. So just some before I start, this presentation is a lighter presentation on what we're gonna post on DAO Talk. On DAO Talk, we'll post more details, numbers, and other things. So this will be a little bit lighter at least, but there's a lot of slides to go through. So let's look at the overview. We'll be talking about the squad and the resources we have and need. We're talking about Swapr highlights, past highlights, and talking a little bit about retrospective. What thoughts do we have about what happened and about that, and then looking forward, basically Q1, Q2, and then way past and soon. We'll talk a little bit about past the Q1, Q2, basically everything after that. Yeah, so Swapr squad. We were basically two people for a while, me and Federico, and this is how it looks like. So basically, we grew a lot since September. We had a lot of new people coming in, and we are in total. Is this 7? Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, we have some past part-time people also, and we're looking to grow the team and squad much bigger than what we have today. We're looking to be 12 people in Q1 and hopefully 16 in Q2, and mostly developers. But yeah, we also have like testers and things like that. So it's not always development we need help with. But yeah, it looks good. This chart, I would say it's bullish. There's no lines going down too hard, and hopefully, yeah, we'll have more people wanting to join Swapr while we grow the success. So here's the team or squad. A lot of full-time people, but some part-time people. And something to notice here, we do have contractors working for us basically as full-time, and it's, I would say it works really good. Without them, we would be not pushing as much as we do right now. And the newest contractor, King is helping us with testing, which is helping us a lot. So yeah, this is the squad, but let's not forget. I would say the extended team that is not squad specific. John, Sky, Nathan, Chris, Keenan, and I'm sorry if I forgot anyone here, but obviously these people here have been helping Swapr a lot, and I would include them in the squad here. But let's call them for now extended team because they're actually part of many squads, and yeah, you can see what they help out with here. And yeah, let's keep going. Yeah, highlights. What happened during 2021 with Swapr? So we launched farming. I remember we did this very early. We launched both farming and do-it-yourself farming. This was done by Federico alone, and he did some really cool stuff. We're very early at that do-it-yourself farming game here. I don't know if there's many others doing it, and yeah, we had community tried out really fast, and we did some tests ourselves, and yeah, everything's working fine, and we're happy about these features. And we also launched something we called echo routing. So echo router v1, and we keep on adding new markets to it. So echo router is helping Swapr being active on all the chains without fighting for liquidity. Swapr is actually doing this, I would say, alone. I haven't seen many others doing routing traffic, routing swaps without taking fees. So this is something we do with Echo Router V1. And we launched on Arbitrum and XDAI or Gnosis chain. And we're live on all of these. So yeah, some numbers. Keenan.
Yeah, we're going to do a bit of a decentralized presentation here. I'm going to chat a bit about the numbers. Interesting, we've claimed 2,352 airdrops thus far, and Swapr has a total of 2,850 holders on all three chains, obviously including all our deployed chains that just mentioned on the previous slide. You can go, yeah. And so our TVL kind of milestone, the highest TVL we hit throughout the year was 72.8 million, which was super impressive. Obviously, this was coinciding with the launch of farming. And if you're familiar with Swapr, you'll know that this has subdued somewhat. But important to note about that is even the prior to farming versus after farming is, I believe, about a 5 times increase on average to the lowest point. So we have really, really excelled our TVL over the year. And maybe some more interesting data surrounding kind of TVL and whatnot. Actually, volume, we did hit over $128 million in volume facilitated on all three chains this year, which has an implied annualized volume of 300 million US dollars. This is obviously very dependent on ETH price and the fact that Arbitrum has been deployed much shorter than the other chains. And another interesting stat, just to kind of kick this off, is our ETH versus stables pair was our by a long shot the strongest pair on ETH each chain. So obviously this is very chain dependent. We had DAI on mainnet, USDC and Arbitrum, for example, but considering them the same pair for the purposes of this presentation. And interestingly enough, we facilitated 208,000 transactions on our ETH stable pairs across each chain. We have roughly at current time about 532 LPs and received an average volume, an average implied annualized volume of 121 million for just the ETH against stable pairs, which is super impressive. And just as a final kind of stat, that equates to roughly $50,000 annualized in protocol fees.
Yeah, thanks, Keenan, for the awesome numbers here. Let's look a little bit deeper into some things that happened in the past. So we did the Arbitrum launch and the Swapr launch, and we actually, during this time that we wanted to launch on Arbitrum, we launched a couple of things at the same time. So we launched governance on Arbitrum. We did the Swapr airdrop. We worked on the Swapr claiming the airdrop. We worked on basically getting like the network switching to be a good experience to jump in between networks, to be able to go from Ethereum mainnet to claim something on Arbitrum, because the Arbitrum, the airdrop was on Arbitrum. So we had to do that experience good. And during this time, we had to redeploy everything and basically try to migrate the old Swapr token to a new Swapr token. And I would say, from the team's perspective, I've never worked closer and tighter with a team before than this time. During this time, and I'm super happy how we all pushed through. And even though we had a small fail there with the launch, I would say the relaunch was super successful, and almost no one remembers what happened back then, and we basically saved the launch with the relaunch. So just a thought about what happened there. So if anyone wants to share any comments about that time, feel free to do it. I guess not. Let's go here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can step in here again for incentives. Obviously, Swapr token, as mentioned, launched on Arbitrum initially. So we did kind of have a focus on Arbitrum. We had an 80% allocation of all rewards to Arbitrum, with 10% to mainnet, 10% to XDAI at the time. Around that time, we kind of started to introduce partnership incentives. This kind of started with, I believe, House on Gnosis Chain, and kind of has been expanding throughout the year through various projects, Agave, Rice, Badger, Impermax. There's a lot more to name, of course, but just some notable ones. And obviously, as we kind of went through this, we started to realize that relative to the rewards that we're actually handing out, we were having better performance on Gnosis Chain. This was sort of this was sort of even at first, and then as Arbitrum kind of cooled down a bit, it became immediately obvious that they should be a little bit more on parity. So we started migrating rewards away from Arbitrum, just to reach that kind of parity and kind of looking into the future on how DXDAO kind of supports Gnosis Chain. And obviously, we also started exploring farming 2.0 through Carrot. We did have several kind of test campaigns on Gnosis Chain, where Carrot is currently deployed. I believe one of them did not meet the condition, but the other did. So it was a good little experiment. I think we're looking to the future, going to be integrating Carrot a lot more with our farming.
Thank you, Keenan. So looking forward, Q1 and Q2 basically. So we try to get Swapr out of beta. So basically going from what we have now to V1. That means removing all the testnets from what we show in the UI. Basically, we have made Swapr easier to be tested on testnets because it is still in beta. Try to get Swapr governance rolling, and I've said this before that I count Swapr as going out of beta when governance is live. I would still say that, and that's one of the big goals. Another goal is getting the landing page up, and this is something we're working on right now, and it's a collaboration between Intricasa and Swapr Squad. We have a meeting actually next week, trying to sync with the developers on both sides to make this happen. And why I'm saying a collab, because we're actually doing a landing page / dApp hybrid, basically putting both on the same page instead of having two different places to go to. Most dApps out there has a domain, and then they have a dApp. I would say we could try to do both on the same place, especially because we don't have a regular domain like most other has. So if you go to Swapr, I don't want to go to a landing page, to be honest. I don't like that when you go to Uniswap or HoneySwap, you actually go to a landing page and not to the AMM. I just want to maybe swap, and I don't want to see the website every time. So that experience wouldn't happen on Swapr. You would go to the dApp every time, but if you want to see the landing page, it's there and you could scroll through it. So we'll show you the landing page later on. We're still working on it, but it's pretty cool, and it explains the product really well. I think that would be like the place to send people if they want to know more about Swapr. Yeah, So governance and tokenomics. Maybe Venki could chime in here a little bit, talking about how we plan to do the VE Swapr, or just broadly talking about locking Swapr tokens for governance.
Absolutely. So basically, we want to start thinking about Swapr guilds and getting benefits for Swapr holders that stake and lock their Swapr. So VE Swapr would be any Swapr holder that wants to stake their token and then lock the token for a specified period of time. We would want to make this non-transferable, and then all of the fee distributions should be claimable by this VSwapper holders. And the VSwapper holders should be having this voting rights as well. So that would be on the MVP. And yeah, it's basically, we are waiting for the DXGov team to come back when their guilds are ready. So after that, we would probably have time boosts and penalizations if there is an early unstake. So yeah, that's about it for now.
Thank you, Venki. So yeah, we obviously have not only Swapr governance, we also have LP governance. It's something we're working with the DXGov team to make it happen. And we plan to have this happen in maybe somewhere in the Q2. But yeah, more about that maybe from the DXGov team. Other than that, how do I see Swapr, the product, happen? Like, what is the focus? I would say one of the focuses I'm trying to have next is to have it UX first. And when I say this, I mean both from the design perspective, the experience perspective, but also from even the user's business perspective. So basically, I've had this question before from partners and from us at DXDAO that we might lose revenue by serving more markets or serving better stablecoin providers, and yeah, I think instead of giving the user what we have, we could give the user something that is what we believe is the best for the user. And that's basically if we know that there is a liquidity source that has the best stable coins, then we'll add that. And yeah, we'll try to do that on all the chains we're focusing on, and yeah, try to deliver not only one protocol, but basically deliver like a multi-protocol experience. So yeah, that means adding a lot of liquidity sources, adding aggregators. We're already looking into this and doing this right now. So yeah, and another point here is DXDAO could help out with the provision of liquidity. Maybe Chris can chime in here a little bit.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. It's really great to hear, like, kind of Zed talking about the UX first element of this, because I think that's really important for the long-term health of Swapr, is like making it just an easy place to trade, and having people that come there for that. And I think it's more possible for that to be the focus of Swapr if it's not trying to attract tons of liquidity or live and die on whether or not like a farming campaign attracts liquidity as much. So I think DXDAO liquidity is really important for giving Swapr like the breathing room to really build both the front end, and also we can think about the back end in terms of like the revenue stuff, but build something not so much like, oh, it needs to be a hit success in like 3 or 4 months, but like, what's the long-term foundation that we can kind of build here. And so right now for DXDAO liquidity, there are about $3.5 million on Swapr. So I think that's kind of about like 40% of the of Swapr's liquidity. So you think, I think it's like 40% DXDAO liquidity, and then like 30% DXD ETH, and like then like the rest is different pairs or that. So I think DXDAO liquidity is important, and it already has been kind of this past year, but I think that we can move towards that going forward. I think there are three different ways or to think about this. First and foremost is the existing assets. Can we increase those? So right now there's a proposal, obviously, that I think is like 2 days, that Sky has led to put, I think it's going to be around $2 million worth of additional liquidity in the WETH XDAI pair on Gnosis Chain, and that'll hopefully make us the largest pool on Gnosis Chain, and I think we can compete in that a lot. So I think having like really good foundation in the DXDAO liquidity on those big pairs is a really good competitive positioning for Swapr. In addition to those like existing assets that we've already been LPing with, I think we can think about other treasury assets. I'm thinking RAI, I'm thinking the staked ETH. Obviously we have a lot of like stable coins in different ways, but like, is there a way that like the treasury, like other treasury assets, can be used on different chains? And then I think the third way that the treasury can help is through sponsoring liquidity for new projects. And so this is something John has talked about. Like, there's Ondo Finance. This is Faye has been involved in this. It's kind of like providing initial liquidity to projects by kind of seeding one half of their pool. So they bring the project tokens, and you kind of have the dollars or the ETH or something. And obviously that's like a simplified version, and we can think about more creative ways to do that. But in the same way that we've been supporting projects in the ecosystem through DX Ventures, I think we could do the same thing in bootstrapping liquidity on Swapr. But I think that's a little bit more long-term way there. Just like a meta point on using DXDAO liquidity and like, I don't know, Swapr and the AMM battle or the liquidity battle that's kind of going on here. I think in the end, all like decentralized exchange liquidity for tokens that are not like the blue chip tokens, like the owners of that liquidity will be like the projects themselves, and we'll have to figure out a way to like cooperate with them. And DXDAO providing liquidity itself is one way of it's doing that with Swapr. Like, I can't imagine basically like any liquidity provider providing liquidity to an AMM if they don't have some ownership in that AMM. That like kind of relationship between the liquidity provider and ownership of the AMM will become pretty tight. And you already see this, like, like different tokenomic structures can enable this. Like, this is kind of like the Curve level, right? You see that the liquidity providers on Curve are very much Curve holders. Literally, they have to lock it up. And I know Zet and Venki have some cool ideas on that. But I think that's kind of part of this whole liquidity battle is like, what are the liquidity sources for Swapr? And like DXDAO liquidity is a really great foundation. And then figuring out how we can like build other liquidity sources through partnerships with other projects, through launching other projects, through all the other ecosystem product suite things we have of getting like liquidity and funds into Swapr. But it's like a slow grind of attracting that liquidity one by one.
Thank you, Chris.
Sorry, that was a little tangent.
No, it was great. Yeah, I agree. I agree. We should try to have more partnerships and have the protocols feel some ownership of the liquidity. Next thing is bridges. Obviously, we are multi-chain. We launched the bridge beta. We are, I would say, not so much focusing on the resources of building bridges or doing more bridges, or it's just what we're doing with the Echo router and connecting liquidities is it's what we're gonna do with the bridges, basically connecting more bridge sources. And I think the route we are going on Q1, Q2 is bridge aggregators first. There is some good ones that we are talking with. They don't charge a fee, and they basically have all the bridges we want. It is basically echo bridging like we wanted to build, but they don't have every bridge that we want. So basically, we will integrate them and then integrate whatever bridge that is missing. It's mostly like Gnosis chain bridges that is missing. So yeah, a lot of focus will be on bridges and bridging. And let's look at Q3 and beyond. Yeah, so there is a feature I would like to call bridge swapping, and I think it's not. It doesn't need to be the future, like in that sense, but I think people will do that more often than they think they will, and I think this is also something Gnosis chain and Gnosis want to focus on, and I think we should be early into this and build this in. There is a possibility to do this really soon, actually, through a partner, and I think that's a MVP we want to launch with them. They are launching in February, and we are looking to integrate them during February. But the bridge swapping will not activate until later on. I think there's a lot of UI UX things to solve before we just activate it. And yeah, that's part of the echo routing v2. So basically, yeah, bridging will not always be bridging. It could be swapping in between chains, but it ends up back in your chain again. I think with cheap multi-chain swaps and bridging, that will be possible. There will be possibility to do a swap on multi-chains and get your swap back on the same network without even you knowing about this. So that's something we're looking into. Advanced trading mode, basically giving the swapper or the trader more advanced tools to be able to look at trading history, charts, and giving possibility to do limit orders and things like that. It's something we're also looking into. Single token staking or / bento box, basically, yeah, forking bento box and looking at the possibility to be able to provide one single token and having a system where you could provide liquidity or stake with just that. This can open up a lot of doors. I think it's still very early, but we are looking into this. And then there's something I would like to call protocol owned fees. This is an idea I have. We are looking into this too and looking if this is possible to do technically. So it's basically giving Swapr governance even one more thing to be able to vote on, and that thing is to send part of the protocol fee to any address. So that will open up protocols to be able to earn a fee from their own token. So imagine how OpenSea does this with NFT. If someone creates an NFT series, so let's say Bored Apes creators get this royalty fee, and OpenSea gets a fee too. This doesn't exist on AMMs. I think there's room to disrupt a little bit here with giving protocols fees, but obviously it needs to be voted on. Until then, Swapr gets the fee. And I think this is something really interesting, especially when we talk about partnerships. This is something we could potentially get partners over to us much easier if we could share the fee with them. And this can open up a lot of doors for DeFi, I would say. So this is something we're already looking into, and everyone I've talked to about this is super interested and hyped up. So yeah, much more partnerships. I think that's that's one of the goals, I think, to get better liquidity and more use of our tools that we're building, Carrot, do-it-yourself farming, single token staking. So a lot of the things we're building, I think partners are the best way to go and have them being used. And here's a complete product roadmap. I'll be updating it a little bit before posting it to the forum, but yeah, the general idea here is pretty clear. There's some specifics to be changed in the Q3, Q4, and soon place here, but yeah, this will be up on the forum really soon. Thank you. That's all. Thanks.
I thought you could have kept the screen share. I was still looking at the gradient.
Yeah, so captivating, amazing. Not only a great visual presentation, but also a very inspiring and a great presentation product-wise. Swapr is really taking the crown. We might see some Microsoft type red team competition between squads and DXDAO. You know, who's gonna take the crown from Swapr?
Yeah, thanks guys. So just so you guys know, Entrecast is helping us building a presentation template so we don't waste time doing slide designs here. But yeah, I think it's fun giving the slides some presentation, some personality. Swapr will have, I would say, almost like not a relaunch, but like a relaunch with the landing page. It will focus more about the brand of Swapr with that, and Entrecast will help us with this.
Yeah, a facelift.
Basically.
Nice. All right. To build up on this, a bit more difficult topic is, consolidating our views on the multi-chain liquidity mining strategy for Swapr moving forward. There were a few different opinions shared on the last weekly, it's actually now bi-weekly farming call. Opinion was expressed that we may have to pump the brakes a little on the farming emissions, the rewards being given. Another opinion was to try and reinvent the incentives by utilizing Carrot extensively among all campaigns on all chains. And there are certain partnerships that we've created with other organizations that are still ongoing. And we are also about to receive the long-awaited and promised reward in funds from the ecosystem fund for Gnosis chain to help Swapr incentivize farmers further. So there's a lot going on that needs to be considered, and we need to come up with one unified view so we are on the same page for the coming epoch starting February 17th.
And I guess we need a plan for the GNO tokens. And then I think that plan should also have like some Swapr tokens. So for at least this next epoch, right?
Yeah. And something also I forgot to mention is we've been contemplating shifting a little more from the Arbitrum emission over to Gnosis. So that is also another thing to decide on?
Yeah, I think the comparable TVL volume and now the GNO rewards are all good reasons why more rewards, like just in terms of percentages, I understand the value of the Swapr token has gone down a bit, but I think just reflecting those things with the allocation would be a smart move, I think.
Yeah, something actually to consider is the kind of disbalance. It seems like a negative word, but it's nothing like it. The disbalance that now is created from this new GNO fund with the rewards to be distributed on Gnosis chain and the Swapr emissions. I'm wondering if receiving those GNO rewards help increase significantly the dollar value of rewards being given on Gnosis chain compared to Arbitrum, make it so that we should leave it for later to decide whether we should be shifting more of the Swapr emissions from Arbitrum to Gnosis. If it were just Swapr rewards, it made sense. It was almost like needed to reallocate to make up for the TVL. But now that we have GNO rewards, we already have this massive increase in rewards on Gnosis chain. Do we still need to shift some of the Swapr as well?
I would argue it's more of a signaling, like kind of the messaging that the balance says, right? Like, and I think since like Gnosis is putting this like significant amount of value behind it, and also with just the performance relative to Arbitrum. I mean, I thought the Arbitrum strategy was good, but I think we should be adjusting to how things are evolving, and I just think it's like a good signaling to like have the percentage distribution kind of reflect where the priorities are.
Yeah. Initially, it was 90% Arbitrum, 10% Gnosis, and 10% mainnet. We changed that to 80% to 70% Arbitrum, 20% Gnosis, 10% mainnet. Should we now make it 60% Arbitrum, 30% Gnosis, 10% mainnet, or even more? Make it 50% Arbitrum, 40% Gnosis, 10% mainnet?
Well, I think mainnet is a question. In general, I think we should be moving away from relying on just direct Swapr issuance. I think what we're talking about now is how to have that, because we have GNO rewards to hand out, that's like part of a cohesive strategy we probably need to have for at least the next epoch. But as long as like the GNO rewards are going, I think we need Swapr rewards for that. So that's on Gnosis chain. I think that discussion on mainnet and Arbitrum is different there.
And Zed, you were pretty much the main person behind the idea of pumping the brakes, because the token is not trading at fair value. It's severely undervalued, which doesn't make sense for us to give it away so cheap.
I would say.
Are you comfortable with the emissions?
So we can look at the incentive from two ways, right? One of the things is basically incentivizing money-wise, right? The worth of the Swapr token. The other is distributing governance right, ownership of Swapr. I would say the distribution of Swapr as a governance wouldn't say complete, but it's successful, right? I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, not fully break, but like break the emissions a little bit and refocus. And then when we gained a little bit, not only the price but the momentum of Swapr, we start the emissions again on pull our foot away from the brake again. So this is how I see it, at least.
I also think that we should stop emissions on mainnet. It's yeah, unless and until there is any partnerships, I don't see any value for having these emissions. We don't have any trading volume at all in Swapr VET. So yeah,
that's true. What Venki says, to put some color to that, we already have really good pools for trading Swapr on both Gnosis and Arbitrum. And even though there is some liquidity that is being incentivized on mainnet for months, it has seen literally zero volume. And it has still been receiving a good portion of the rewards. And it makes sense to probably halt that for the time being.
Yeah, I think the only question on mainnet is the Swapr ETH pool. I assume LPs are not going to exit that because like there's gas costs to do that. So, and like I am not an LP in the mainnet one, but that's going to be small, but that's fine even if that's not a big pool. But like it's not probably contributing significantly to the LPs on the DXD WETH pool. I am an LP on that, and like it's kind of, you're not going to exit that because of you're kind of parked in that position. And then the DAI WETH one doesn't really matter because we have DXD liquidity on that. I think the only risk really is on the Swapr ETH pool, and I think that's not really that much of a risk.
Yeah.
I guess Arbitrum is the question.
It would have been nice to have Federico on the call to see what his availability is like to do a bit more with Swapr with carrot campaigns, but given we don't know if we could do this realistically from a technical standpoint and the time that it takes to set them up at this moment.
Yeah, I think the discussion is really on what campaigns should we have for February 17th that we can pair with GNO rewards, because those are good and we want to have those on Gnosis chain. And then the second question is, what, if any, rewards do we want to have on Arbitrum starting on February 17th?
Yeah, I looked at the GNO token. Aside from being paired with wrapped XDAI and wrapped ETH, it doesn't really have any other pair apart from a tiny bit of liquidity with Curve token and with USDC. I don't think we should be diluting liquidity to incentivize those two. Probably stick to wrapped ETH and wrapped XDAI. Regarding Arbitrum, there are 3 or 4 pools that we've
Keenan, what do you think? I guess like what pairs should we try to incentivize on Gnosis chain? Should we still try to incentivize things on Arbitrum? And I think the consensus is not doing anything on mainnet. So I guess you probably is that you're in agreement on that?
I'm trying to take a bit of a observation approach to this because I'm so deeply involved, but I definitely agree. Reduction or completely abolishing mainnet makes sense to me at this stage. I think there is something to be said about having Swapr liquidity on each Swapr deployment, considering governance is going to be so important. And I don't think mainnet is the exception, but we are not at that stage yet. So I think that reducing or removing now makes sense, and then we can kind of reassess that at a later date. As for Gnosis chain, we did add some new, if I'm correct, kind of smaller tester pairs, so we can kind of assess how their performance goes throughout this epoch and see how they kind of perform. We did play around with P&K, Fox, if my mind is correct, maybe there was one more. But I do think that the actual percent allocation of tokens is in a pretty decent place on Gnosis Chain. We've done some refining over the last couple months. And then regarding Arbitrum, I definitely don't think there should be none. I think that despite Arbitrum being in a little bit of a liquidity downturn, it still is very impressive and contributing pretty significant numbers to the Swapr protocol, especially when considering that its life cycle has been much shorter than our other deployments, being Gnosis Chain and Mainnet mostly to the beginning of the year, Arbitrum kind of at the end of Q3. So I definitely don't think abolishing makes sense there. And I do think that the allocations on the chain are actually pretty good on Arbitrum. But the percentage of rewards is definitely something I agree with moving away from. And I think starting at least parity between the two, maybe 50%, 50%, provided we remove mainnet, is a good place to start, especially since the TVLs are kind of equal right now. And we can get a better gauge of how Gnosis Chain kind of reacts to that increased rewards. That's my thoughts.
Also on Arbitrum, there's no DXproduct liquidity there, as opposed to Mainnet and Gnosis Chain, which have DXproduct liquidity. So I guess, that sounds like, so basically 50% Arbitrum, 50% Gnosis Chain, and then the Gnosis Chain, there's some new kind of pairs or ones we've been playing with, and then none on Mainnet. And then that would be a 4-week epoch or 4-week campaign for those.
Yeah, I think we've informally moved to 4-week epochs, but since our plan is kind of based around individual epochs of 2 weeks, we have to probably language-wise, continue to call it combined epochs to some capacity.
Yeah, and then that would get us, and then maybe just thinking after those epochs, we'd probably continue or default to maybe continue for another 4 weeks, but probably have the ability to audible or change course. But I think, 50-50 for a 4-week epoch with GNO rewards on Gnosis Chain is that would make sense.
Yeah, I like that as a start. I am worried that the data will become a bit harder to assess with the increased GNO rewards. I expect Gnosis Chain to vastly outperform Arbitrum once we have that GNO reward, which may give us the wrong idea that Arbitrum is significantly underperforming when relative to just Swapr rewards. So it will be interesting to kind of dive into that when that starts as well.
There's also another thing to consider, which is bridging. And we've had some disgruntled token holders who have complained that we've announced a shift of reward emissions on the very day of launching a farm. And if they are to start bridging at that point, it will take them 7 days to participate in the farm. So if we're shifting rewards over to Gnosis and they want to participate, if we tell them on the day the farm starts, then they will miss out on the rewards.
2 super quick thoughts on that. One being, I think the primary problem with that was we did a full translation of GNO. We had a percentage on Arbitrum and moved that directly to Gnosis Chain. And obviously we did that because of the acquisition and Gnosis Chain kind of firing up. But I think the main problem was that there was rewards on one chain, none on the other, that completely flipped. Where this kind of percent allocation would just mean reduced rewards, and you can obviously choose to move whenever you want. And if the rewards are reducing, you probably want to do that after the last couple of days of the full reduce, the full days of the allocation anyhow. And then I had one other thought, but it's kind of slipping me.
Is this still keeping the same full emissions from the epoch that was scheduled?
You mean in raw Swapr number?
Yeah.
The full amount, yes, delegated to the epoch, but the split would be different per chain.
Yeah. So how are we giving out less Swapr then? I thought we want to reduce the amount of Swapr we're giving out.
The amount of Swapr we're giving out would be the same, just less on Arbitrum, more on Gnosis Chain.
Yeah. So why don't we use Carrot for all of it? Like, if Carrot's good, if we want to do DeFi farming 2.0, why aren't we using Carrot for all of the emissions? And that either accomplishes a goal that we want, or it doesn't.
we have.
Swapr.
I mean, there's $7 million. How much? There's $7 million in Arbitrum that is pure like traditional Swapr emissions farming, and like Carrot is cool and interesting, and we should be building products around that. But like, I'm not sure if we can just instantly translate all $7 million or $6 million of that liquidity into Carrot incentivized ones. And for Gnosis Chain, like the whole thing is we have to do them with GNO rewards, and so like that strategy on what those rewards look like will just be like what looks best with GNO rewards. I think maybe separate to what you're saying is like limiting emissions. And so I think like maybe there should be less emissions overall, but I guess I'm more in favor for these campaigns to be like the kind of classic, boring, traditional farming style.
Why? Like, what about maybe half of what if 50% of the emissions we're using Carrots or something then? So you have the base and then you have the bonus.
I think another point that Chris didn't mention is that there is kind of a bit of an overhead to using Carrots right now. And if we're setting up Carrot campaigns for all of these individual farms, it becomes a lot. And we're kind of having to do that through Federico right now.
Exactly.
It's a bit of a challenge, I think.
Yeah, I do support what Sky says. I don't even think we should do 50%. I think we should do everything in Carrot. But as I mentioned earlier, we don't have the bandwidth to have Federico set them up. So we just can't use it at the moment.
So
but a good question Sky raised, if we're just shifting the emission ratio between the two chains, isn't that against what Zed says for reducing the emissions, which I actually support? We should probably, for the time being, just temporarily reduce it and keep it in reserve.
Yeah, I think what we should do is, in the short term, the next epoch we're giving the Swapr emissions, we should not give out the mainnet portion. And so reduce whatever the next emissions in this next epoch by however much the mainnet was. I guess that'd be like 20%, maybe. 20% out on a calculated. Do that for this next epoch. And then the next one, which would be like 7 weeks from today, like by then, could we get some Carrot campaigns going there that would then like also further limit our downside risk for like Swapr emissions there. And so then we'd only be doing like one epoch of this traditional Swapr farming style with like 20% emissions that we originally planned.
That sounds like a good path forward, unless ETH Denver messes up our time schedule. Yeah.
Well, that's why we're talking about it now, because we're like, we need to. These are like two, and that goes back to the plan of emissions across chains. Like, we can communicate this ahead of time, and I think people have been very much aware that we're like Gnosis Chain has been much more of a focus, and so it'll like fit a broader trend.
All right. So to sum it up, we are halting mainnet emissions and keeping them in reserve. We are shifting some of the Arbitrum emissions to Gnosis to equal the emissions on both chains, but Gnosis will overall have more because we also have GNO token. Is anyone against any of this?
Is there any way we could use Carrot some way on February 17th?
With the way it's currently made for us to do custom chart for every oracle,
Scott,
it would be impossible.
What about, I got it, Scott. What if we do a DXD ETH Carrot impermanent loss? I don't know, with DXD, maybe that's a different question, but that one would be interesting. Like, because we should be pushing things forward. You're right. Like, we can't, we did this in the beginning of December, and we need to like making sure we keep trying things and throwing things at it.
I mean, the easiest one would be some total TVL on Swapr on one chain, like Gnosis Chain, and include those Carrots in a few different pools. Like if we're just creating one campaign, but we use those carrots across a few different multi-reward pools, it just creates one carrot campaign basically. So it's not a lot of work, I don't think.
That is possible if we target price. You could put the entire emissions for one network in one single carrot campaign tied to a target that is the price of the token. And
I was
then
thinking
distribute it
TVL. Price of token doesn't work very well so far from what we learned.
That's
TVL.
because
No?
yeah, that the price was basically one small campaign on one network pitted against all other campaigns on all three networks. But what you said about creating one carrot campaign with a carrot that can be distributed to all pools on a network, then the price could work. But of course, it will still be pitted against the other pools on the other network.
Yeah, so price is interesting. I think TVL is better, but because you can actually like attract liquidity and to get the reward, and we could use the price can't be fixed until we continue to put DXD capital into Swapr. We have single-sided staking, and we do actual buybacks with protocol fees, which those are all being worked on. I don't know the timing of those, but those are the only things that are going to fix Swapr price. And then reducing the amount of Swapr we're giving out via either reduction or carrot usage. Those would be the four things that would help Swapr price, which is what I would like to do. But we're moving with those four things.
Let's do this then. Has anyone got anything against putting all of the emissions for Gnosis for the following epoch in one carrot campaign tied to the whole TVL of the whole Gnosis chain with a range and distributing that carrot token to all pairs?
Let's maybe 50% of the emissions or something. I don't think we do 100%. No.
Yeah.
I'm not against it, but it's just that I don't know how it will be set up. What there would be.
What's the detail? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think we have to think it like through, like what's the details on the pairs? Because like remember, if there's GNO rewards for pairs, then we can only do 2 rewards. So we'd have to do GNO and then like a carrot or something. But like I'm open, as I said, I'm probably thinking I'm open to it, but like what is the exact design?
Wait, we can
structure?
do 3. No, you can do 3 rewards, right?
I think it's just 2.
Smart contract support has not been done in the UI yet, so I imagine
Yes.
it will introduce some potential, things that require cleanup.
No, but we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't make them in the UI anyway. We're making them using.
I just mean we might want to test how that is displayed, like how it looks when we do
gotcha.
it. Just
Gotcha.
might break something, I don't know.
If we can create one in Rinkaby with 3 of this, like a similar setup. It doesn't have to be the exact condition, but then if we can just set one up with 3 rewards, we will give it a test early next week, and then we will know for sure if it is possible or not. And if there is something that needs to be fixed, we might do a release after like a couple of weeks. We can target for that release.
Well, how about we split, the pairs that have GNO token in them, we incentivize with Swapr locked in carrot and GNO token given directly. The pairs that don't have GNO token in them, we incentivize with 20% Swapr directly and 80% Swapr locked in carrot. And for the TVL range, currently the whole Gnosis chain for Swapr has TVL of about 7 million. So we could target a range of say 6.8 to 10 million.
Yeah, we're about to add 3.2. So like let's maybe range 10 to 20 or something.
Can you come again? Sorry.
Yeah, the TVL range, like for the carrots, could be something like 10 to 20 on Gnosis chain.
Because DXproduct is about to add a couple million more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we also take into consideration there might be a market dump bringing down overall liquidity.
No negativity here. Up only.
Get this guy off the stage, man.
All the more reason to use Carrot. So I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, then it will go back to this Carrot price distribution where it is difficult. So I would probably start it at 5 to 20 or 5 to 25, something like that. So there is a sure shot distribution for we're already starting with some distribution.
What do you mean?
Well, we have a base of distribution of GNO and then the swapper would be like if the TVL doesn't increase at all, then the swapper doesn't get distributed. That's the goal. It's a way to reduce swapper distribution.
Okay. Cool.
I think we came up with something great. And anyone thinking differently or?
And all of these carrots will be distributed to all LPs, right?
Basically, we'll have a list of pairs.
Yeah.
From that list of pairs, the pairs that have GNO in them will receive Swapr locked in Carrot and directly GNO. And the pairs that don't have GNO in them will receive, let's say, 20% of the emissions directly in Swapr and the other 80% of Swapr locked in Carrot and no GNO. It's basically one Carrot campaign.
Yeah. Can we blacklist stable pairs or something like that? Or do we still want to have the stable pairs? So people don't game them.
We don't have a stable pair on XDAI, do we?
Yeah. USDC extra, I think there's one.
Yeah, we do have USDC XDAI.
That makes sense, I think.
I don't think we're incentivizing it. No. Let me take a look.
Oh, it's not incentivized, no. Yeah.
Yeah, but Venky's saying someone could just put $40 million into that pair.
Yeah.
Is that negative?
Not if we don't incentivize it.
That'd be dope, man.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you incentivize it. We're looking at the TVL of Swapr on those.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
So you want to not count those pairs, which I think is fair. Or we could just allow list like 8 pairs instead of the total TVL. We just pick. Yeah, we could pick all the key pairs other than the dollar pairs.
TVL of incentivized campaigns, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I mean, we could also just account for that possibility. If we're going to be retaining the plan over time, then retaining that liquidity over the course of a year is probably not a bad thing.
If we had $50 million in the dollar pair and we made the fee 0.05%,
It will eat curve.
yeah, it could do well, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is a good thing. Like, I mean, and plus it, like, I kind of would love to see somebody try to game the Carrot campaign.
Yeah, gaming Carrot. Yeah. The Carrot is like, that's good, right? Like it's like, you know, if you
not if it doesn't
lead follow the rules.
Not if it doesn't lead to any fees. If someone puts like $50 million in the dollar pair and still no one trades that pair, that's not ideal.
Right? I think that would be worth. I don't know how much Swapr it would cost to do that, but that would be, you know, just think of the presentation we can make next year of the new TVL, like all time high. Like it's at least worth something on the marketing front.
Yeah, if that happened in 1 month, like we could adjust to it, right? Like it would be kind of like this game, right? Where it's like a cat and mouse of like, oh, well, okay, they gamed this last one by putting in this much.
Talk about something that would be a great selling point for Carrot too. Like, yeah, we launched this Carrot campaign. You know, $50 million came into our decks. Like, you should try it.
And there's an opportunity cost to that as well, right? Because like you can get 10% on stable pairs on Curve on XDAI right now, right? So I don't know if it's actually that likely.
Yeah, the main issue with this, where like GNO is given as GNO, and Swapr is only given through Carrot, is the amount of money that the Swapr is worth is still going to be like, 1/10 the amount that the GNO is going to be worth. So like, it's not the Carrot bonus is not like that attractive of a bonus. I don't think. It's a unique idea, so it's just like extra. It's like governance. It's like a governance bonus rather than a financial bonus, which is
the
kinda
other
cool,
way.
yeah.
The other way, maybe we could just keep it so that it's only GNO is Carrot, and the rest, and there's always just direct Swapr rewards. But
no, yeah, that would be interesting.
well, it's just simplify it, I guess, right?
Ideally, we could put both. Yeah, find a way to combine and put them both in the Carrot, like Agave did, but better way.
Yeah, the only way with Carrot V1 would be, I think, to do exactly what they did, which is to. But we don't really want to create a symmetric pool for it, do we?
So what if we use Swapr? GNO won't work because not enough money for Swapr, right? You can't use the Swapr GNO Swapr.
The problem with creating a Swapr pool as the reward token is it has to be 50-50, which if we have this issue of like an imbalance in the value, it becomes a problem. Yeah. You could address that kind of like Agave did by creating a weighted symmetric pool on dosage chain, symmetric being a balancer fork. But yeah, so I guess the thing we're debating here is like, do we do what Nathan had proposed of like, Swapr carrots on Swapr pairs and GNO carrots and GNO pairs, or do you simplify it into just one of those tokens? Or I mean, I think we should definitely be using carrot on GNO because I think it shows good faith to Gnosis that we're responsibly using their rewards, right? And not just dumping them into the farming campaigns. Like it's going to come with a desired result.
Okay, so then yeah, on some pairs we do Swapr regular and GNO via Carrot, and on other pairs we do GNO regular and Swapr Carrot.
Yeah, that's what Nathan had said, which I think is fine if you guys think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is good. We should write these down.
I think overall we want to be using Carrot well with or heavily with GNO to show Gnosis that we're not frivolously using their GNO.
Yeah.
All right. Next on the agenda, I'll skip one and go to I'll skip the bidlathon because most of that is in safe hands with Venki and John. As a part of our sponsorship package, it's outlined that DXDAO has the ability to conduct a workshop or join a panel. And given the schedule for ETH Denver, the only 2 days for workshops and panels are February the 18th and February 19th. I'm not sure whether it's too late now to ask them to do a workshop. And there is no list of existing workshops or panels for us to ask to join. So maybe it's not much for us to discuss now, but if anyone is in touch with the guys at ETH Denver to ask them what's the chance for us to do anything at this point.
Yeah, we're working on that. The idea is to get on a panel, ideally about DAOs, but they don't even really know what those panels are yet. And potentially Chris is going to be on that panel, but depends on the exact panel, and then we can decide. But
cool.
Chris is the we don't give a talk. A workshop's like a technical workshop, which people were saying like maybe that's not the best thing. So being on a panel, especially a DAO panel, would be the ideal. But the woman in charge of doing the content is like really slow, and all the panels are not even defined, much less the people on the panels. So,
well, this is good news for us. We're not late. It seems like this time to figure it out. So that's good. So regarding the Bidlathon, we did a lot of discussing last Friday, and we kind of cleared what products we're going to be building on and putting bounties on. And the tasks outstanding were to do a video and to have some documentation. Sky was asking today in the chat whether we have any documentation for Carrot, because if we're going to ask hackers to build and set up bounties, we need to point them to something to read.
Yeah, so I think as part of the getting together, this is a forcing function I was talking to John about. Like, if Carrot and DXGov/DXVote are like the two products that we have, like that they're not even on our docs. They're like hard to find information about. They have repos, so we need to make sure that all of the links to those things are included in the hackathon like summary materials and the video that John is making. And then if we can, we would want to put as much of that as possible also in DX Docs by ETH Denver, if possible. Because if you go to DX Docs, like Carrot and DXGov don't exist as products. And so, our most sufficient product is actually Swapr. Like, if you come to DXDAO, like you're like, oh, Swapr, and then Omen. And those are the two things we're not really pushing for hackers. So at this point, it would confuse people. So we need to make sure that the things we're pushing are as just as much of a part of DXDAO as Swapr and Omen, basically.
Just some quick color on the doc situation. I did put a little bit of a recap of that in my work proposal I put up a day or two ago, but the goal is to have that kind of larger update out before ETH Denver. Everything's been a bit crazy, especially with the onboarding of Wayne and whatnot, but something that I'll be trying to prioritize over the next week or two is getting that updated in through ENS.
Yeah, I remember on working on Aqua, we had this happen with Adam when he was so happy to help with everything. Whenever anyone mentioned a new issue that was created, he took it and wanted to work on it. But then he took so many issues, he couldn't work on them. And he was like, why did I take all of those? Whereas someone else could have taken it. I'm wondering, could we trust Wayne to help with that?
Sorry, I think I cut out. Could you repeat the question?
I'm wondering, I feel like you're doing too much, Keenan. I wonder whether, I know Wayne is still new to the team. Could we perhaps try and get him to like delegate some of the stuff to him to start helping with that, like the documentation?
I see. I think regarding documentation specifically, it's actually not an incredible amount of legwork at this point. I did have a lot of time during the last period to kind of chug through a lot of it. It's mostly just structural and kind of pushing that, which is a bit more technical. And of course, not speaking to your capabilities, Wayne, but if I understand correctly, not much development power. So I think I should be comfortable specifically on the docs, and he's helping with kind of the social stuff, taking that off my plate a bit, which is definitely going to give me more room.
Yeah, it's also largely like knowing which, like where does all the stuff for DXGov and DXVote and the guild sit, and then where the Carrot stuff sits that we would need to link to. And so we're going to have those links in the document that goes to hackers and stuff. And so like we might not need like the link to the GitHub, whatever, in DX Docs. I guess if we had that for others, we could. But just is more like getting Carrot, like for example, Carrot doesn't link to Carrot.eth. So like just high level. So if you come to DXDAO, you see our products. If you come to DXDocs, you see the products there, and then they have a way to get to the place they need to for those products. So it's not like it's more like moving links around, I think. Yeah.
Also, I think you came up with a good idea, Sky, that will kind of alleviate all of that. If we just create a channel in Discord for ETH Denver and point anyone to that channel, they can have a live person like support to talk to. If they come over to the channel and ask a question, any of us can help them out, point them to a specific link. So that's a good like remediation.
Totally.
Yeah,
and that's a place that like Federico's not attending ETH Denver, but it would be awesome, yeah, during like hack time if possible, that he's hanging out virtually, because actually the whole week before is also virtual hackers that have the whole week, so we can get used to hanging out, well, especially the devs, in answering hackers' questions in that channel. And then it would be like when the hackathon happens, usually like there's immediate questions. So as much as resources as possible hanging out in that channel would be ideal. Yeah.
Hey everybody, this is new John M speaking, and I'm, as I mentioned in the chat, happy to contribute to some of that documentation. It'll help me get a deeper understanding of some of the products. I'm reasonably technical, and provided that there's a reference model in DXdocs that I can sort of emulate and access to somebody who actually knows what's going on and can lead me, whatever I can do to contribute. And I'll also be at ETH Denver as well, so I'll look forward to making some connections, and at least there'll be maybe some contribution made before I get there. But open to thoughts around that, and no pride lost if you determine there's somebody else who should be doing that or can be doing it better. But happy to help.
I think that'd be good. I actually need to put this video together like in the next couple of days, so I'm going to be looking kind of more deeply into the new stuff we're adding on guilds and Carrot V1. So I think I could help support kind of you if you want to look at the DXdocs. And I'm curious what Keenan thinks, because he's been organizing this.
Yeah, I was just about to add that I think that would probably be great. Obviously need to kind of take a deeper dive. The last 2 or 3 weeks I've just been so busy, I haven't had a chance to pay attention to our planner board and see exactly where our status is. But maybe, John, if you want to reach out to me, I don't know, Keybase, if you have my handle, Keenan Luke, okay. We can kind of liaise on what the needs are, and then maybe get you started on some smaller tasks.
Terrific. That sounds great.
Yeah,
maybe create a little 3-way TM that we could coordinate, because I'm also working on the video. Yeah.
It's too much Johns for one chat. I don't know, man. I'll make it right.
That would be awesome, because there's also, John, the video you're making, but like then effectively we need like just a simple, 1 or 2 page document that is basically like the written version of what you're explaining in the video, which is where everyone would use to like get to all of these 5 things that we're talking about, basically. And that would be published for the hackers. Yeah. So that could be a good project.
And John, should we ask Ross to do this for DX Vote?
Ross is already working on this. Yeah. Good. Yeah, I talked to him yesterday.
Yeah, and as John was mentioning, like this is this kind of stuff is like, ideally we have this all kind of already in place for all of our products, so that new people can, especially developers, can like figure all this stuff out in a very quick way when they discover DXDAO and its products. And so having this, having to force the fact that we have to make this stuff for ETH Denver is a really good positive thing, because will give us a model for how to always make sure we have that for our products on a regular basis too. So it's
foundational, and it will help us for the other hackathons that we'll be attending throughout the year. And something we already ticked off today, we already did something. Wayne was asking about the sponsorship package, and we figured out we get to share an article that they will co-market for us. and the deadline was the 31st, and Sky put it together already, so we have it done and ready to review, and then we can send it over to them to publish. Well, we will probably publish it in Medium, and then they will co-market.
And we also have a virtual DXDAO booth in the VR version of ETH Denver, which is live all week, and we'll link to the similar docs and Discord and everything in that. And like, yeah, it's a metaverse booth, which is a little weird, but we should hang out at that booth if we can. I don't know how you access it, but I'm sure they'll announce that.
So excited. I don't even need to be in Denver. I'm just going to be in the metaverse.
This is the metaverse.